and to speak up about illegal activities and dangerous influences festering in their own homes and neighborhoods. How easily do you think that is going to happen, Theory? How easy do you think it is for people in a household to snitch? Is that the word, snitch on their own family members?
That is not very easy. It's not very easy at all because one, you have persons who in their household is the culture, crime is the culture. That's one. Two, you have persons so afraid of their family member and what they would potentially do to them that they won't even dare to say anything against them or report them. And finally, the aspect of love. You know, I love you so much. And I know I mentioned Jonathan for a reason. The two boys who fatally shot him, rest in peace, Jonathan, it took his mother to say you were wrong. I'm gonna report you to the police. That was something that I I don't want to use the word impress, but it took a strong woman to realize what is right from wrong. So I said that to say this. The three negative connotations that I mentioned earlier with respect to this snitching is what it is. It's fear, it's love, or it's a culture. And we just criminals are. They're just criminals, you know. So the difficulty of it, I would say, I would put it up in of 89% percentile, something around there. So
Mhm.
we need a culture shift, and it can't. And I know everyone, whoever speaks about any issue, always say the government, the government, the government. But all it takes for the prime minister, the attorney general, say enough is enough, and then act, and the dominoes will fall. You will see everybody stand up and attack this issue full force, but it
Yeah,
has to start at the top.
but I think what is also needed, Theory, is an admission. I think the country needs to hear the government admit that they have failed.
I
And
agree. I
you know,
wholeheartedly agree with
there
you.
is there is nothing wrong with admitting you have failed. I think that is one of the first steps toward endearing trust in what you are going to be looking at going forward to do. Okay, don't come talking to us all the time about. And here on the screen, I think Dave has it highlighted, because again, this is the deputy prime minister, whom I do know. I know her father quite well, and I ran into her the other day at the licensing authority. We had a very amicable conversation. I like her, and incidentally, we don't hate anybody. I don't hate Mia Motley. I don't hate anybody. I may hate what you are not doing or doing. But I don't hate you. I can't hate you and remain the believer that I am. So I know her, and I found her I really like her, to be honest. As I've conversed with her, I found her a amicable person in that sense. But here she's saying Barbados, Bradshaw issued a direct challenge to Barbadians. And I don't want to necessarily major on her. I want to major on the statement made, because this statement could have come from any of them. What are you doing to help stop this? Not the government, you. But to my mind, the government needs to put the mechanism in place that helps the community, assist them in the process. And you talked about a number of different things. And I said, I made some notes. You said that the government needs to stand up and say enough is enough. But I really believe that it has to start with the head of the government coming to the people and saying, look, we have not been successful in reining in this matter, and we need to sit down with you and hear from you to see the things that we can do. What you need help with, what are your suggestions and recommendations? Stop flying all over the world dealing with methane release and carbon dioxide, which only occupies 0.01% of the Earth's atmosphere, and get home and deal with the issues here.
Thoughts of
So, yeah, go ahead, Shaquani.
on that point, they ask a very crucial. She asked a very crucial question, but we need to ask the government this question: What are you doing to stop this? That is what the government needs to answer for the public. Because I saw somebody said in the comments a little bit earlier where they asked about the community policing. And with that, they need to add some more funding to that department. Get the community policing officers back into the community where they can start by doing programs and projects. When you have something that works, why are you not utilizing it? We talked about starting programs and getting initiatives to help the community. There's a department within the policing department that is utilized for something like that. We know that crime is very, very serious. It is getting worse now. Why not roll back out those officers in the community policing department, add more funding to their portfolio, and get the projects off the ground? We cannot do it alone. And if the government does not utilize the resources at their hand, we will be in a worse position. At this point, we're going to lose a generation that I don't even know how we can begin to pull it back if they do not start thinking that crime is a serious matter.
Thank you so much. I see Easy D saying, which government on earth is going to admit it's wrong. That's why we need a revolution in government and in governance. We need a revolution because what we're dealing with here is pride. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with an arrogance and a pride. And what is it? What does the good book say? That pride cometh before destruction, or something like that. I think it says. You know, I have run organizations, and there comes a point in time where I have had to admit to the contribution I have made to a particular problem or issue in the organization, and sit down with my colleagues to see what we can do to address it, correct it, improve it, or whatever it is. And this is one of the reasons I have felt that the once, and you guys would know this, once elections are over, constituency meetings for uh, party candidate party, Labour Party or Democratic Labour Party constituency meetings should cease. And what you should be having are constituency meetings for the constituency. In other words, it doesn't matter whether you're D, B, A, whatever you are, the constituency meeting, you now represent the constituency, you don't represent the party. And this is why I have said that in Parliament, there are 30 independent people sitting in Parliament. When you get into Parliament, you are not a BLP member. When you get into Parliament, you're not a DLP member. You are an independent candidate sitting in there representing however many thousand people from your constituency. You don't just represent Barbados Labour Party supporters. You don't just represent Democratic Labour Party supporters. You represent the entire constituency. So we need to hear from them with regards to that. Now, you all made a comment concerning, I think it was yourself, Thierry, or Don, it was you that spoke about the millions of dollars that were being spent, or sorry, the millions of dollars that were directed to the police. And I know recently we've had this discussion with the tint, which I think is a red herring. I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, let me just bypass that because there's a lot I could say concerning that. But I wonder, and I had this discussion with a police officer who was at our march recently. Have you ever seen a police officer in this country wearing a bulletproof vest?
No,
I'm
please.
talking about the special forces, not special forces. What do you call it? Task force. I'm talking about the ordinary police officer. Have you ever seen any of them in a bulletproof vest in recent months or years?
No, not so often.
I haven't seen them. And one of the things I would want to think is that if you feel that one of the reasons you want to reduce the tint regardless, the concern is that the policeman's safety is at risk because he cannot see who's in the vehicle or what their intent is. Wouldn't it make sense to ensure that all of your police officers, once they come on duty, are so equipped to protect themselves from persons who, regardless of tint or no tint, are going to have ill intent?
Yep.
Dr. Ferdinand, may I add something?
Sure.
I is all I always say to myself, right? If any government ever spend money where they actually supposed to spend it, a country will soar. I said that to say this. There are vital agencies, institutions. I will even go as far as saying conglomerate level, um, conglomerate level departments, right? And with respect to the impact they have on the community. Case in point, the police service. No, it's not a matter of police officers are not willing to go there and do what they have to do. But you hit it on the nail. They don't have the equipment. They don't have, you know, the necessary support behind them. You know, and it's something that's occurring all over the world. Oh, police this, police that, police that. We don't deal with the police. We don't like the police. This and that. No, I'm not going to say that all police, you know, align with their job to protect and reassure. Some don't. Some just don't care. Some just love abusing the power. But the majority got into the service to serve people. And if any government ever, B, D, E, G, R, F, wherever random order, whoever comes, ever spends the correct amount of money on the Barbados Police Service, you can see so much improvement in
A
this
big
country.
change.
A big
I
change.
have no doubt.
And
I have no doubt.
I'm not going to look at like, oh, it has to be a specific commission. Look at Trinidad. They just appointed Alistair Gavrado, I think that's his name, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. The man said, the commissioner said, we have a lot of work to be done, and he is doing the work day one. So it's not a matter of leadership, it's a matter of support, it's a matter of resources. It's a matter of you spending the money instead of going and spend money on things
Foolishness.
you don't need, you know, in a little island like this. Let
Yeah,
me deal, let me
$60 million, $60 million on houses that we haven't gotten accountability for up to this point in time.
exactly. Let me
Yeah,
focus on the key issues, the key infrastructure, the key institutions, right? As I said, the conglomerate level. So and they use conglomerate level in terms of impact. That when they have what they need, you're just like, wait, this is same Barbie. This is all yesterday. Can't be the case.
yeah.
Until that occurs, I'm sorry to say, my
We're not going
most
to be seeing things
respected doctor,
change.
you're not going to see nothing
Yeah.
change. And it's going to
Well,
take
listen.
for you. Oh, sorry, apologies. Continue.
No, no, no. You all guys stay here because we want to take some calls. So I hope you all are ready to make some comments and answer some questions as they come in. Whatever is shared with us. 2367000, folk. This is your time. We're a little bit into your time actually, but we are waiting your calls. Uh, our team in the back is holding for your calls. 2367000. And I mean, these young people have shared some tremendous solutions, some tremendous views. And there's a question I actually want to ask you all. It might sound like a totally ludicrous question, but I want to ask you all. But I want to give the folk an opportunity to call in. 2367000. Okay, first come, first serve. We don't mind you waiting. We don't mind you in a waiting line. Okay, just call 2367000. And these young people that have contributed so tremendously tonight are here to take your comments, take your questions in terms of what you'd like to hear from them, what you think their ideas would be, or things that you would like to suggest, or comments that you would like to make. While we're waiting for that call, guys, I want to ask a question. A lot is said about the block. All right. It's like the block is the source of hell. Okay. What are the kind of conversations that go on the block?
Well, I mean, I would tackle this one first. Is
And I'll
nothing.
interrupt you. I'll interrupt you as soon as I get notification for a call. Okay, it's not that I got bad manners. It's just
Good, no
we'll have
worry.
a caller coming in, and I'll interrupt you when that happens. Okay, but go ahead, Don.
It's a lot of idle time. Lots of people are on the block, just genuinely because they were home bored, they ain't got nothing to
Uh-huh.
do. There's no community center or anything positive, or no sport going on in their area. And as a young man, you just want to be outside where the action is, in the centers where the action is. And for majority of communities, that is the block. And when you go out onto the block, the most motivating and inspiring people on the block are going to be the dons on the block, the people that sell the most drugs. So when a young, impressionable teenager starts going out onto the block for the first couple of times, their role model, already establishing that, quite a few people in Barbados grew up without a father, so no role model. The first real role model they see of success is a drug dealer, somebody selling drugs, or a shooter, somebody who does hits for a living. So then when you get a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old, they're growing up, they're seeing that for years on end. This is what success looks like. And that's probably the worst part of it all, because all they needed was a slightly healthier, a slightly better environment, even if it was like at a sports club. If you live close to, I don't know, for example, Blenheim, and you live close to the National Sports Council, you'd have been able to go over there, start football, cricket, etc., etc. So it's really just you become a product of your environment. If all you see
I
around
have
you,
I have to cross you. Remember your last word. You see around you. Okay, remember that last word. We do have a
probably
caller.
not. Yeah.
Okay, we do have a caller. Good evening and welcome to the Marcia Week Show. Please go
Hello.
right ahead and share your comments. Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Yes, we're hearing you.
Yeah, okay. So, I don't believe that there's a specific thing that we could pin the crime problem on, But I believe that if we have greater action towards this crime problem, towards mitigating this crime problem, I believe that we could start to see solutions. Maybe we could try out certain things like have greater policing, you know, stuff like that would help mitigate the problem in crime. But the main
Hmm.
the main thing the main thing we should do is have greater action towards it. If we sit down and try to if we just sit down and try to come up with ideas on what we could do to mitigate it, that one that wouldn't mitigate the problem. I believe greater government action and greater police action would aid in mitigating the crime.
Now, when you say greater government action and greater police action, what are, in your mind, what are some of the things, and I don't necessarily want to hold you to it, but what are some of the things you think, even one or
Um,
two, you don't have to go through a whole list, but what are some of the things you think could be engaged when you speak of greater action from the government, greater action from the police?
well, as a person that is out here, on the road, catching the bus and seeing what's going on the
Hmm.
floor, I am in a position to say that in the presence of police, Barbadians and the broader public seem to exercise a little more, what's the word? They're a little more disciplined when the police are around. Like, for
Hmm.
example, when in the bandstands and stuff like that, or on the side of the road, when the police stand up, these van men, they don't act the way they would usually do. They would do the right thing. So the greatest police presence, it could help solve the problem of crime. I mean, they
Okay.
got some whistleblowers out there that saying that Barbados will becoming a police state when they're seeing all these police presence and stuff like that, right? But I believe the greater police presence, you know,
Okay, so you believe
can
if
help
you could
mitigate the
increase the
problem.
number of police in the community, number of police on the streets, in other words, if their visibility level was raised by virtue of their numbers, that would help to deter persons from going down a particular path or something of that nature?
Yes, but
Okay,
one
okay.
the second you say that I could give two solutions to
Yeah, yeah.
mitigate the problem. The second solution that would aid in mitigating the problem, right, is um, government regulation, specifically on the topic of legalizing marijuana. You understand? The main problem that we have with crime is the selling of drugs, primarily marijuana. And if the government had legalized marijuana, we won't be having this problem with marijuana. You understand? Because that's the main drug. That's the main drug that is be sold in Barbados. I mean, some people will talk about Molly and stuff like that, but marijuana is primarily sold, and if there was greater government regulation around these drugs, I believe that people won't be demonized and stuff like that for holding marijuana. I remember when it was in school, they had a guy, that was like, he was my age, and like this was in like third form and stuff like that. And this guy's brain was fried because of the marijuana that he was smoking. You understand?
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
yeah.
if there was greater regulation, government intervention on these topics, I believe that we won't have the same problem.
We wouldn't have those problems. Okay,
Make
so
marijuana legal
greater,
and make it legal only above the age of 18.
okay, greater policing and greater government regulations. Thank you so very much, caller. Appreciate that so very much, and
Yeah.
thank you for not just calling, but thank you for the suggestions that you have made. Guys, any of y'all want to comment on this? As it relates to just let me check here. I think we might have another. Let me see here. I think we might have another caller on the line. Yes. In terms of the marijuana problem, or sorry, marijuana issue. Uh, can let's hear your thoughts on this, guys. I mean, I think you would have studies done and from different parts of the world, and my mind goes to the U.S. and in certain areas of the U.S. the use and some of the causes and some of the impacts and so on. But what are your thoughts? I mean, you're all of the younger generation.
Mhm.
I don't know what you are, Generation Z. You can't go past Z because there's no other. There's
We
no
would
other.
be millennials.
You'll be millennials. Okay, so the past Z, you move on to the millennials. Yes, your thoughts on this, guys.
The only thing I would say is that I just want to remind the caller that the marijuana is medicinally legal, and you can go to a shop in Worthing and tell a doctor that you got problems sleeping and buy it straight off the shelf completely legally right here in Barbados. So I just wanted to let him know that 'cause marijuana completely legal. Once any doctor in Barbados gives you a prescription for it now, I agree with him in the sense that it's something that the police don't need to be using resources on. Whatever is your personal opinion on marijuana, whether you think it's beneficial or detrimental to your health, that's besides the point. I agree with the caller's opinion on the fact that too much police resources are used on it and it's demonized. At the end of the day, whether you think marijuana is, quote unquote, frying people's brains or not, the police don't need to be spending all their time and resources on it. There's enough actual crime here in Barbados that needs addressing to do with guns
But if
and
but if
cocaine
if it's
and other stuff.
identified as a source, if it's identified as a source of the issue,
Hmm.
are we able done from any studies done? A lot of the times we have to point to studies done overseas because
Hmm.
I don't know of studies that are done in Barbados
Yeah.
to tell us, that the research is done that we can depend on or rely on or turn to
Hmm.
that can give us the information relative to Barbados, because, of course, what may pertain in another country does not necessarily translate within the context of our culture. We have another caller which we're going to take. So when we come back, Shaquani, Thierry, let's hear your comments with regards to that. Good evening and welcome to the Marcia Week Show.
Good
Hello.
evening, Reverend. Good
Yes,
evening,
good evening.
Father.
Good
How are you
evening.
doing?
Good evening. We're doing fine, thank you. And
Can you guys
yourself?
hear me?
Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear.
Good. I'm calling from the diaspora, and I communicate with the diaspora a lot up here. And
Wow.
we are not, yeah, we are not happy at all about what's going on in all the island of Barbados.
Hmm.
I was home not too long ago, and how is it that a returning nationals, could know that these motorcycles are not legal to be riding around Barbados, and the police are not doing nothing about it? That's one thing that you know we talk about. Two is the defense force in Barbados waiting for World War III. Why are the defense force are not working with the police every day in Barbados to go and help fight the criminal activities that's going on in our island? We are very upset up here, man. I mean, it's like these things are so easy to get done, but
Hmm.
nobody is doing nothing but talking. The politicians are talking, the police commissioners are talking. You know, we got so much illegal stuff coming through the ports, and it is known. We in the diaspora known of these things. We hear these things, but why is it that nobody is getting caught, getting arrested, charged? Nothing. Well, you know, I have a lot of solutions. My solutions are too radical, for sure. Right? I'm old school. But why
Uh-huh.
is it that people in Barbados know these motorcycles are not legal? I mean, sometimes you gotta make sacrifice to make better. Those motorcycles should be knocked down. People can get hurt, but yes, when the people start attacking these criminals, then they can stop doing the nonsense. When I saw that video yesterday with these guys running about the streets with motorcycles and guns, I was like, is this a movie? Well, I mean, we are so upset up here, it's sad to see that 21 by 14 and it cannot be managed. What's going on in Barbados? Why is everybody talking, talking, talking? I was
Hmm.
home and I went to my district, and the guys were in the street standing up. So I was driving my hired car, and one was like, who was he? So all the guys said, he? If he's a Barbados or one of the nonsense will be, won't be happening. But I'm not saying that, you know, we got to be violent, but the Bible says an eye for an eye. Those few people in Barbados, it's not a whole lot, are destroying our country, and the other 280,000 are just talking about it. We need to retaliate, man, to stop this nonsense. The police can't do everything. Forget about the politicians, they're part of the crime. People, citizens need to retaliate against these people. Back in the day when I had Rap Brown and Top Super, those kind of guys, the police guys, I know them personally. This nonsense won't be happening. We are allowing these things to happen to our country, and we are talking too much. Those guys are known. Everybody know them, and they should be attacked the same way they are attacking old people and innocent people. You gotta fight back to stop the crime in Barbados. The police can't do everything.
So,
Okay?
caller, let me ask you quickly. Are you suggesting then, and I use this statement very cautiously because I don't want to misread anything that you're saying. Are you suggesting type of vigilante justice?
Listen, those guys are destroying Barbados, so we have to go after them too. I mean,
So
old
are
people
you are you
get offended
suggesting
at
then
the
that the
yes,
private citizens take the
we
law
have to
into their
go.
own hands?
Yes, sir. We have to go to that extreme because they are destroying Barbados, and we are not we. Barbadians are too afraid. I hear stories about people don't ever come out on the veranda, don't want to talk, nobody don't walk the streets. They need a vigilante group in Barbados going after these people once and forever because the police is doing it, the defense force is doing it, and the government talking a lot of crap. So we need some people. Stay off the phones, don't plan nothing on the phone, and go there and go after them.
Wow.
Because then if we don't do it, the police will come after one. It can be stopped tomorrow because there's not a whole lot of criminals in Barbados. There's a few of them that doing the nonsense in Barbados, and they get away with it and got the whole country in a mess. It could be stopped in a month. As we had a few good men that when they decided to go there, get together, leave your phone home, and take care of these criminals, it will stop tomorrow. But the criminals know that Barbadians ain't doing nothing,